remember that little clay kit I told you about? So we've got in here wrapped up in cellophane, and we've got, what you're gonna find when you unwrap this is you're gonna have a slab of clay, and then you're gonna have a damp paper towel on top, and that's just to keep the clay moist for you. All right, so you're just gonna peel that off. Once you open it up and peel off that paper towel, that damp paper towel, you're gonna have a slab that looks like this. I have already pre-rolled this out for you, the thickness it needs to be, so all I need you to do is measure it and wrap it around. So here's our can, right? See, it's nice and loose, I can pull it off and on. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off real quick so that I can measure, because I want it about the size of my can. I can just kind of roll my can across, okay, to give me a rough line. Yeah, Nevada, get nice and close to all the stuff I'm doing. They don't need to see my face, they need to see my hands. Just don't look at my nails, they're yucky. All right, so then this shish kebab skewer that you have in your kit is gonna be basically your knife, guys. Okay, so we're just gonna cut, and it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. We're just gonna cut a line, okay, just like that. Then we're just gonna take this guy and just kind of move it off to the side. Okay, once you've got it there, we wanna make sure our can is covered with our paper. Moms and Dad, if you want to cover that paper with paper after, that's fine. I just did it before. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up. I'm going to turn it this way, Nevada, so they can see it. And we've got the bottom of the can matching up to the bottom of our clay. All right. And we're just going to roll. And I'm going to turn it so you can see this direction as I roll. We're just going to roll, 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 and you're going to get, it's going to match up almost perfect. All right, if it's a little short, you can pick it up and just kind of wiggle it out and stretch it just a little bit. So you don't want to have a very big can, so test out your can size before you do this, so you make sure your can is okay. But it should ultimately just barely touch like that, guys. All right. So whenever we work with clay, when we're joining two pieces together, it's really important that we do something called scoring, all right? So I have right here is my skewer, right? And what I have right here is a little dish of water, all right? It's gonna help be our glue, all right? So we're gonna create a little zipper kind of thing. So right here on this side, we're gonna just scratch, 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 scratch. Make little scratchy lines. Now guys, this is really important, okay? Whenever you're joining clay together, you have to do this. And if you don't do it well, what's gonna happen is when we fire it, we stick it in the kiln to cook it, it is going to just come apart, okay? Now, for these things like this, like the flowers and the horn and all that good stuff, we want it to stick, we don't want it to fall apart. We want you guys to, you know, have it on there, but if for some reason you don't happen to get it stuck on there good, we can always glue it on afterwards, because this is not something we're going to eat off of, all right? But really, we want to make sure we get it together the way it's supposed to. So we've scored here, okay? And now we're going to score on the outside here, okay, guys? Because this side is going to match up to this side when we're done. All right, so we're just kind of making little scratchy marks. We're not going all the way through, all right? We're just scratching it up, roughing up the surface. All right, then we're gonna take our water and just a little bit of water on our finger, and we're gonna gently go over those little scratchy points. Notice I'm not going so hard that I'm rubbing out those scratchy points, all right? And then we're gonna roll it so that those two ends go together. Now let's see if Nevada can get a good picture of the squish. Can you see that squish in there, Nevada?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so now we're just kind of pushing it together. This is our glue. This is what's gonna hold it for us, guys. All right. And once we push it all together, it should stay as long as you've scored it and you've used that water to hold it together. All right. At this point, we're gonna just tip it up and let it sit for a sec. We're gonna check our little edges. Now, moms and dads, you can be the judge of this at this point. You can let this sit a little bit, maybe an hour. Nowhere that's really hot. Okay, we want to keep it kind of damp. If you are worried that the kids might be a little too rough with it, you want it to harden up a little bit, you can do that. You don't have to though. You can start right from this point. What we can do is we can push out that can like that, and we're going to have this tube. All right, and our paper's still in there, right? And we're gonna stand it up just like this, and I'm just gonna take this paper and gently push it down. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. one more thing I want to do first. Got ahead of myself. Okay, so we got that tube, and then we're going to take some more newspaper, and we're going to crumble it up, and we're going to stick it down in the middle. This is just going to help kind of hold it together so it doesn't move around too much. Okay, and then from there we can kind of push this down. All right, you guys, moms and dads, you can cut that off if you want to. All right, so then you're left with something like this, right? It's pretty firm, it's holding together. All right. At this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start working on the other parts, okay? So we can set this guy aside. I'm just gonna set him right here, all right? We're gonna make this little nose right here. And how do we make that little nose? Well, remember the little slime kit we have? Where's my slime kit? My little slime kit you're gonna have? We're gonna use this to make our nose. All right, so we're just gonna put it down like this. Like this, so our clay is about halfway through, or you guys can do the whole thing if you want, and then just cut it in half. Let's do it that way. Let's just trace around this circle. All right, so then we have this circle. I'm gonna cut right here and pull it out, I think. Okay, and then we got this nice circle. And then we're just gonna cut it in half, just like that. All right. Now see all these little rough pieces, guys? We wanna make sure that these rough pieces, before we're all done and call it finished, we wanna make sure any of those little rough pieces are nice and smoothed out with just a little bit of water. And the reason we want to do that is because when we cook this and it gets nice and hard like this, if we don't smooth out these little rough pieces, those little rough pieces will be sharp when they're hard, and we don't want that, all right? So once we've got our nose all ready to go, we want to attach our nose to the front here. Y'all remember what we need to do? We need to scratch, 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 right? So what we want to do is we want to pick up our nose and kind of line up where we think it needs to go. It's going to line up towards the bottom, right? Once we kind of figure it out, we can do just a really gentle line with our stick so that we know where we need to scratch, all right? Then we're going to scratch, 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 not all the way through, guys. We're just, and it doesn't have to cover the whole area. We just want it to get most of it, all right? And then this part, same thing, we need to scratch, 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 scratch. All right, back again with our water. A little bit of water here, a little bit of water here. Once we got a little bit of water, which is our glue, we're gonna stick it back where we want it. Give it a little push. Now we're pushing gentle, guys, because this clay is soft, right? We're just gonna push gentle. All right, nice and gentle. Okay, guys, nice and gentle. It really is best if you do this pretty much in all one sitting, just because your clay is all going to be the same moisture level. But like I said, if you want to let it sit out for even 20 minutes, it'll just give it a little bit. It's called leather hard, and then you'll still be able to work with it. All right, so now that nose is on there nice and good, I want to give him some little nostrils. So I'm going to take that skewer. I'm going to use the other end of it, guys. And I'm just gonna very gently punch in some nostrils. All right, there we go. So then we're gonna set that aside, and then we're gonna make ourselves some ears. All right, ears are still super simple. Remember this guy that we had? We can, oops, wrong end. We can cut off right here and cut off right here if we want, and then just squish, squish, squish. We're making little triangles. Squish, squish, squish. We don't want it too thin, guys. Remember how thick it is here? That's pretty much how thick we want everything, all right? So if you smash it out too much, that's okay, but then you can't use it flat. You need to smush it all back together and get it about as thick as this clay is, all right? So I got like 2 triangles here, right? So I want to stick them for my ears, right? So I'm going to figure out, there's my nose, so I want my ears about here. Kind of right about, there's the end of his nose all the way up. There's the end of his nose all the way up. About right there is a good place for ears. Now remember, anytime we want to stick clay to clay, we need to scratch, 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 right? Scratch, 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 scratch. A little bit of moisture, a little bit of moisture. Stick that little ear on just like that. Give it a little push. Now, I'm pushing with one hand, one finger on the inside here and one on the outside so that I don't squeeze it too flat. Even pressure, just nice and gentle. There's an ear, right? Now we're gonna get our other ear. We're gonna do the same, scratch, 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 scratch. That spot, scratch, 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 scratch. A little bit of moisture, a little bit of moisture. Stick it on. Pushing gently, gently, guys, gently. All right, once we get those ears on, at that point, if you want to just draw in, you want to just draw in a little for the inside of his ears, just something for you to follow when you paint, or maybe you don't want that. Whatever, whatever. Now we're gonna do his horn. All right. His, excuse me. His horn, we're just gonna take a chunk, what? His horn. His horn. We're gonna take a chunk of this clay and we're gonna make a snake. You guys all play with Play-Doh, you've made snakes before, right? We're gonna squish it and make a snake. All right. We don't want it super thin. Probably about your pinky.
You don't want it too thick either.
Yeah, we don't want it too thick and we don't want it too thin. We want it just right. Your pinky's a pretty good width for a horn though. Once you get your snake all squished out, you can decide how long you want that horn to be. And then I'm just gonna roll it here so I can get my finger marks out of it. I'm gonna gently squeeze the top like this to make a point. We don't want that point too thin, so just kind of gently squish, squish, squish. And remember, if you make it too thin or whatever, you can just squish it back up and start over again, guys, all right? That's the nice thing. If you're really taking your time with this, which is great, and it's really like being a long project, you want to always, all the clay that you're not using, cover it up with a damp paper towel just to keep it moist, okay? And definitely don't do this outside. I know moms and dads, you might be tempted to say, let's do this outside because clay is messy, but clay dries up really fast in the sun and then it's hard to work with. So we want it to dry slowly. So just lay some newspaper down or something, and clay cleans up pretty easily. Okay guys, so I got a little horn. I don't want my horn quite that long, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna cut it. All right, so after I've cut it, now I've got this little end right here, a little flat end. We're gonna tap it. Just like that, okay. We can use our skewer if we want. See how I've got some lines in there? Use our skewer to kind of go around it. If we want to put some texture in, it doesn't have to be perfect, just put some texture in. If you accidentally push too hard and go through your horn, smush it back up and start over again. All right, then we're gonna attach this horn right here in between the ears, right? So what do we have to do? We need to score. And then this is gonna be the tricky part. Right up here, guys, we're gonna have to score right there. This little ledge right up here. It's gonna not be a whole lot to hold on to, but that's okay because we're gonna score it really good. And what happens if it falls off? We'll just glue it on afterwards, okay? So then we're gonna wiggle it because we want it to stick. We can even kind of push it down. So on the back side where it's a little bit longer, I can kind of squeeze around it. All right, we're gonna be gentle and we're just gonna kind of push and push and push and rub. And that should be on there pretty good. Okay, guys. Once that's done, now we're gonna move on to our flowers and leaves. All right, we're gonna move this guy aside. Flowers and leaves are super simple. All right, we're gonna take some clay. We're gonna smush it. This is the one time it's okay to make this clay a little bit thinner than what I had rolled out for you. Because what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make little cinnamon rolls. All right, so we've got this nice and flat. You can use that can. Little cinnamon rolls, and then we're gonna cut little strips. once you get your little strips, then we're just gonna gently, we're just gonna roll it on itself. Roll, 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 roll. And see, we got a little flower. And I'm gonna just go like this and smooth out some things. Now, that's how I did my flowers. You don't have to do them like that if you wanted to, and you wanted to maybe do like little balls, little round balls, and maybe stick some petals on it. You could do something like that, but remember, if you got a ball in the middle for your flower and then you want to stick petals on, we got to score it, right guys? You got to score it to stick it on. So every one of those little flowers, you got to use the water, and you'd have to stick it all the way around. All right, that's why I kind of like these, because you don't really have to do that. All right, so once you get one ready to go, you're gonna decide where you want it. Okay, and maybe if it's too fat, some of them are like that too, you can use your shish kebab skewer to cut them smaller. And if you have a little plastic knife, that works really good too, or even mom might have an old credit card. See how we got a flat back now, nice and flat. We are, oops, wrong side. We're gonna scratch, 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 and we're gonna scratch, 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 scratch. A little bit of moisture, and then we're gonna stick it on. All right, guys. And you are gonna go around and do as many of those flowers as you want, all right? Once you have that all done, all right, we're gonna let it set. Let's see, we don't have the benefit of time, so I'm gonna try to be really careful here. Like I said, let it set for maybe half an hour, moms and dads, after they're all done with this. Pull out. And as you can see, you don't have to wait. It's just you have to be really careful, okay? Pull out our paper. Now, clay's a funny thing because you have to be careful when it's really wet, and you have to be careful when it's really dry. Those are the times it's most fragile, all right? Somewhere in the middle, at that leather hard stage, you got a little bit more room to work. Now, we're gonna pretend like we have all our flowers on there. We have our leaves. Leaves you just squish into a shape. And remember, every time you wanna stick something, you gotta score it. And then the water, and stick it on, all right? So now we're stuck with something like this, right? You see through here, right? So at this point, we want to make sure we get our holes to hang it, and we want to get our holes all the way around for our ribbons, all right? Now, I did mine, and I didn't hang mine close enough to the ears. See how he's kind of fallen forward? So you really want to make your holes a little closer to the ears, because that's where all the weight is, guys. So we want our ribbons to be right about here, all right? So we take our skewer, and we're just gonna gently push right through there like this. All right, other side, gently push right through there like that. All right, I'm gonna go all the way through. Holes at the bottom. You're gonna have 8 ribbons, so you can do 8 holes all around. So you'll have 2 of 4 different colors, all right? And we start just on the side of the nose and work our way all the way around. You don't want your holes too close together because your clay will crack, all right? So we're gonna and I just kind of guess, we don't want it too close to the end because we don't want it to crack, so about there. And it's okay if you don't get exactly 8 or you get them a little high, it's not a big deal. It's gonna look really cool regardless. And you're just gonna go all the way around. And I probably didn't measure very well. Okay guys, so once you've got all your holes in there the way you need them to be, you're going to have this nice little cylinder unicorn. And what I need you to do is I need you to set this somewhere that's not in the direct sunlight, that's not in direct airflow, like by a fan or something, just a cool kind of damp place, or just not super dry place, all right? Because moms and dads, this is gonna be your job. You wanna make sure that it dries kind of slowly. We don't want it to dry super fast. Please make sure you put it on something stiff so that you don't have to touch it to move it. You can just move it on that. And you're gonna have these boards that come with your kit. There's 2 of them, so you can even use this board. All right, so once you're done, you're gonna make sure it's on the board so you can move it around as you need it. You're gonna have some clay left over, guys. Do whatever you like with that clay. If you wanna make some beads for jewelry or whatever you make with this clay, if it comes back to me on your board with your unicorn, I will fire it and you will be able to have that as well. Now, once all of your clay pieces have dried, either a couple hours or even the next day is fine, you can actually paint it. You're gonna paint it wet, all right? And what that means is your clay is still technically considered wet. You're still gonna go ahead and paint it. I just need you to do me one thing. Do not paint the inside. We need to have surface that is not painted so that when we fire it, all the gases can escape, okay? Because the glaze, the paint you use, is gonna act as a barrier and not let that happen. All right, so you're gonna have your paints. You're gonna have an assortment. Some of them might have blue and yellow. Some of them, you're all gonna have a green, and you're all gonna have this one right here, which is the gold for the horn. All right, and then you're also gonna have a little thing of black so that you can go back in and do the black details. And you got a fine brush and you got a fatter brush. All right, same thing with these guys. You guys can paint these as well. Just do me a favor, if they're flat pieces, leave one side without any paint on it, okay? So that when I cook it, the gas has somewhere to go. All right, so I think that is all you need to know about this guy. Once it's painted and everything, bring it back into me as soon as you can, all right? And it will last forever waiting for me to fire it, but the longer it sits, the drier it gets and the more fragile it gets, all right? And so we wanna be really careful when we move it, because when it's really dry, if you just barely touch it, it could break, all right? So if you can bring it into me when it's still kind of that leather hard consistency, which is hard to understand if you don't already know, but basically within the next day or 2, bring it on into me so we can get it fired. All right, guys. So that is all you need to know about this guy, I think. Once it's fired, all your colors are gonna look like that. I went ahead and painted mine wet too. And see the inside that I didn't paint? It's still bright white and shiny. Well, not shiny, but it looks shiny in there, even though it's not. And then when you get it back, you'll be able to use your ribbons to tie on the bottom and tie across the top. All right, so I think that is all I have to say about our unicorn. I'm gonna stick that in there right now. I'm gonna move the unicorn clay craft aside, and we are going to talk about this flow paint. All right, guys? And
go.
All right, so now we're gonna talk about this Fluid Art Core Technique unicorn, all right? I'm not gonna do it on this one because I don't want to waste one. This one's for you. So I'm just gonna do mine on the back of the one I've already done to show you, all right? So you've got this pizza box for a reason. It gives you something to work in, all right? You've got a white paint, you've got a pink paint, and you've got a purple paint. These are all thinned down with some special stuff to make them thinner. So your pizza box is what's going to keep the mess all in one place. All right, so your big cup here, we're gonna go ahead and we are going to start with our white, and we're just gonna pour a little bit in there. This is actually looking a little thick, and that might be because it's been sitting for a bit, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more water to that. I'm gonna use this stick. So we're gonna pour that a little, and just a little bit of the bottom, guys. We just wanna kind of coat the bottom. All right. And then we're gonna do a little bit of this purple. All right, and a little bit of this pink. And you can do this in any order you want, but the idea is we want to kind of layer. All right, a little bit more pink. This is my test run with these amounts of paint that I'm giving you. So we're gonna see right now if it's really enough. I mean, it should be enough, but if I need to
Give you a little more.
give bigger cups, we will. Okay, but yeah, this is gonna be plenty. Okay, we're gonna do like that. All right. So then you're gonna go ahead. I'm not even using all of that actually. We're gonna put the lid on because these paint cups, if they're empty, you don't have to put the lid on, but if they're got paint in them, we want the lid on because we're gonna use these guys as stands. All right. And it's important that we have stands because we want the paint to flow off of it. So we want our unicorn to be raised up. All right. Now we're gonna take some of this white and kind of go around the edges. You can also grab a stick. I might give you guys a little bit more white just because it's kind of nice to have. And you can kind of, if you want to spread some out, we want it to be kind of wet. You don't want it dry. We're just trying to give it something to stick onto. But I want to make sure those ends get covered. Okay, and from here you have a choice. You can either drizzle it or you can just dump it all in the middle and move it around. All right, so I think I want to drizzle it. So our paint is all separated in there, you can see it. The important thing is we're not mixing it up because then we just make mud. So we're just very slowly gonna drizzle. And we're gonna spread out that paint. Then we can kind of move it around. I think I'm going to make sure you guys have more paint because I want to make sure that you got enough. We're going to let it flow around. And you can also take your finger and just gently tap. Just gently tap any little holes that aren't filling in. You don't want to rub because if you rub, it's going to make mush, like muddy mush. We don't want that. We want these colors to kind of stay separate. We just want to kind of fill in these holes. Okay, so I want to help, and by tapping it like this, you kind of help the paint go where you want it to go. So I want to bring it out to the edge. Yeah, I want to give you guys more white. It'll help it move around. And we can kind of watch it move. And you can turn it this way. You can use your finger and say, oh, it's not really moving where I want it to be. Or you can pick up some of the stuff in the bottom and be like, I want some purple there. And pick up that one. Yeah. And some more white right there. Now the important thing is, like I said, I'm going to give you guys a little bit more paint, or actually it's probably enough because you still had all this. I'm just going to make sure I give you more white. The important thing is you want it to be a thicker paint. You don't want it to be brushed out thin, so you want to keep it floating on top. But you also don't want it like overflowing, okay? So you want to kind of try to pour a little bit at a time. You can always pour a little bit more in areas you need to if you need more. There you go. I think that turned out pretty good.
I like it.
I do too. I like it better than the other one, the other side.
Every paint pour is different.
Every paint pour is different. That's absolutely right. Everyone's different. The other thing you can do, and I don't have one here with me, but you can take a straw and you can blow it if you want it to move around. You can kind of blow and make the little colors go different directions. We'll make sure we throw in a straw too. This is why I wanted to do this video, so I could think of all the things that, oh, wait a minute. It'd be nice to have that. All right, so once that's ready and you like the way it is, you just let it be, let it be, let it be. Oh, no, I lied. Hold on. I think you got something else. I don't have any napkins here, so I'm gonna use this. You've got pink and silver glitter. So at this point, while your paint's still wet, if you want to, you can, I like to give it some sparkle. And then once it's all dry, what you can do is you can take some black paint or a marker after it's really dry and write your name real fancy on it and hang it on your door. That would be kind of a fun thing to do with it. Or just display it in your room. Ooh, I like how that's silver. Is that picking up, Nevada? The glitter?
You can see the glitter, but it's not necessarily sparkly.
It's
but
not
it is sparkly.
It is sparkly in person. Alright? So then this is garbage, guys. Alright? So that is how you do your paint pour.